On Tuesday evening, the U.S. Senate was unable to pass a spending bill that would have kept the U.S. government funded. And for the first time in nearly 7 years, federal operations have been cut back. What does this mean for both citizens of the United States and the world in general? Now, whilst the U.S. is divided over its spending bill, there's a story of unity in the Indian community here in Nigeria as they celebrate the Dussehra festival. Hello and thank you for joining us. This is What Now, a program where we focus on international affairs and geopolitics. I am Precious Amayu. Now let's begin in the U.S., where congressional lawmakers have failed to agree on a spending package for the new fiscal year, triggering a federal government shutdown. This could mean significant travel disruptions for travelers in the U.S. and for visitors from overseas. Now, impacts could be felt in longer airport lines, modeled itineraries, and U.S. national park closures, including one of the nation's most popular public tourist sites. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, while speaking during a press briefing at the White House, highlighted the treatment of undocumented migrants in the U.S., amongst other implications.
There are unfortunate consequences to a government shutdown, and the federal government is not receiving any cash at the moment, and so the Office of Management and Budget has been tasked with looking over the receipts and looking over the budget of the entire federal bureaucracy, and as the Vice President said, determining what needs to continue to go out the door and what can we continue to keep running and what unfortunately is going to have to come to an end. So those decisions are being made, and unfortunately layoffs are very likely, as the Vice President just said, going to be a part of that. I'll reiterate what the President of the United States said, 3 or 4 days, and I can tell you that there are some very sensitive discussions that are taking place, but I certainly don't want to get ahead of any announcement at this podium. I'm going to let Special Envoy Witkoff and the President of the United States handle that.
Meanwhile, Republicans and Democrats have continued to trade blames over the failure to come to an agreement to extend funding, with a number of federal agencies putting out messages blaming either Democratic senators or Republican senators. Following this latest development, some lawmakers propose solutions.
What I think we should do is to negotiate on this and come together and figure out what we can do to stop these big premium increases, which is happening because a tax credit is expiring that doesn't have to expire.
This is a clean, continuing resolution to November 21. The Democrats did 13 of these during the Biden administration. 96% of them voted for them. Now, all of a sudden, they vote for it, and it's really a
thing. I think the bigger issue is that Trump has really taken this term to punish his enemies, to punish Democrats, punish anybody he perceives as going against what he is trying to push on the American people. And that's where the rub is. It's not so much the government shutdown. This happens all the time. But moreover, what is the future direction of America toward immigration? What is the future direction of America toward dealing with its own African-American citizens and that sort of thing? So I don't see this as a short-term as a problem, but long-term it may well be tied toward what has gone on in the first year of the Trump administration.
And
that's how I see it.
President Trump is not new to shutdown. He had the longest one, we understand, in 2018 to 2019. That was 35 days. And the Congressional Budget Office released the implication of that for the American economy. It was said that it cost the U.S. $18 billion. How long could this go for? And what would you see to be the economic implication for America and Americans?
Well, the dollar amount that's being thrown out there depends on which budget office is throwing out which numbers. Sure, it's not good. It can't be good. But from a political standpoint, Trump sees this as a chance to further cut the U.S. Government, further eliminate programs that he seen as wasteful or not in line with his interests, such as USAID, such as the Department of Education and so forth. I think that he's going to attempt to furlough and cut off further U.S. government programs under the shadow of this budget standoff. So it's not just a matter of getting a budget approved and getting the government open again. Is moreover, he wants to use this as an opportunity to further cut the U.S. bureaucracy and also to punish his perceived enemies in the United States.
And during the Biden administration, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy took a different direction from what we're seeing from Thune and other Republican leadership in the Congress. He made a last-minute deal with President Biden to avoid a shutdown, but unfortunately, he was recalled and then removed from his position. Do you see any attempt at negotiations from both sides, and who would likely blink first?
It's hard to say. I don't see any movement. I was up on Capitol Hill yesterday visiting a congressional office, and it's like a funeral parlor. I mean, nobody's up there. Doors are shut and locked and this kind of thing. It's hard to say. We have never really been in this kind of political position before. I don't think ever. And so the question becomes one, who is being hurt and who is being perceived as hurt? I think this hurts all Americans. I don't matter if you're black, white, rural or urban. This hurt all Americans. But it seemed to me that President Trump is going to hold to his position, and he's going to use this as a chance, not just to refund the budget, but also to punish so-called perceived enemies of his, and also to try to make the country, push the country more toward the right, as opposed to something that's balanced that all Americans feel a part of.
But let's talk about the politics of this. After the 2019 shutdown, President Trump lost that election along with other factors. And then Democrats also lost the Senate. It sort of shows how shutdown is quite unpopular with Americans. What would be the consequences for Democrats and Republicans as the midterm election approaches? Well,
that again is not known. But I could say that the lines seem to be harder this time around. The Democrats gave a lot some of the things that Trump has done that really require congressional approval. I mean, killing USAID is a congressional thing. USAID, the Congress actually mandate the spending of money. And yet Trump overrode them and just completely shut down this agency and said we will not provide aid to Africa or other parts of the world. And so there's some hard feelings in Congress about that they can't deal with this guy. There's nothing to deal with. It's one thing to be conservative. George W. Bush was conservative, but gee whiz, we were able to talk. There was all kinds of conversations going on between Democrats and Republicans. But this is the first time that I've seen the lines have been heavily demarcated. Republicans have no other choice but to back Trump. There's no other dialogue going on from the Republican side. If you don't back Trump, then he does what he can to get you removed from your position. And so the Democrats are also taking a lot of flack in the sense that they seem not have stood up against Trump on some of the other issues. And so now they're being pushed to take a hard line on the budget negotiation this time around. So it's not clear what's going to happen. I think the next week or so will tell the tale. I don't think that we can go 35 or 40 days like we did during the first Trump presidency, but we shall see. But right now, no one can tell you for sure what is going to happen as a result of this.
How heavily demarcated is that line? You mentioned it shows the heavy demarcation because there are Democrats who also voted along with Republicans to avoid a shutdown.
Well, there are Democrats who are their districts are very split. It might be 60% Democrat, 40% Republican. So they got to walk a real fine line. And that's what you're seeing, that there's some Democrats who are, sort of pushing for some kind of a resolution. But all in all, there are major blocks that are against it. There are Republicans who also want to end this impasse. There are Republicans who want to end this impasse and get the government open again. But they can't speak too loudly. They can't be seen as not in a line with the Trump White House. So they'll just be real quiet. They might vote a certain way when it comes down to a vote, But right now, you don't know what they're saying because they're not talking. They're not publicly saying, let's end this impasse, even though they want to end it. So we're in a real tricky place here in this country.
We'll see how long this lasts for and the implication for the American economy. The last one was 35 days, the longest ever. We'll see how things play out. Thank you so much for your time, as always. Founder and president of the Constituency for Africa, Melvin Foot.